Manx Radio's Update with Lewis Foster.
Fastamai, good evening and welcome to Update on Manx Radio. It's 5 o'clock on Wednesday the 24th of September and it's time for half an hour of the latest news on and from the Isle of Man. Coming up, we'll bring you the latest updates and announcements from the government conference. Has enough been done to tackle the shortage of housing on the island? The Oxford English Dictionary is set to feature some more Manx words soon. All that and more coming up, plus the latest weather and what to watch out for on the roads this evening. As always, let us know your thoughts. Text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First of all, let's take a look at the latest headlines with Amy Griffiths. Fastamai, Amy.
Fastamai. The Treasury Minister Alex Allinson admits there's been a successive failure to grasp the nettle by this and previous administrations over the housing crisis. It's been one of the main topics at this week's government conference, including an announcement about more support for first-time buyers. Dr Allinson says some compromises will need to be made.
Everyone says they want more houses, but they don't necessarily want to have to look at them. We need to break that and have a more sustainable way of providing housing on the island.
Elsewhere at the government conference, plans to expand funding for apprenticeships to larger employers have been unveiled. All eligible businesses will now be able to claim support. The Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival is returning next year. Now the responsibility of the Department for Enterprise, it will take place at Nobles Park in 2026. Minister Tim Johnston admits cancelling the event last year caused concern.
There's always a lot of questions about it and a lot of concern. There's a lot of concern when it stopped. So I'm really pleased that as the department taking on more of the food marketing side now that, we're bringing it back.
To sport now, and Rick Holden has been appointed as caretaker first team manager of FC Isle of Man. The former Manchester City and Oldham Athletic player replaces Paul Jones, who stepped down from the role yesterday. To international news now, and the Ukrainian president is warning the world's in the most destructive arms race in human history. Volodymyr Zelensky's urged the UN to act against Russia now or face more aggression. He also says God saved Donald Trump from being assassinated last year after a big shift by the US leader on his stance towards the conflict in Ukraine. Super Typhoon Ragasas made landfall in China and Hong Kong after causing a lake to break its banks in Taiwan, killing 17 people. It's the world's strongest storm this year. And Jimmy Kimmel said he didn't mean to make light of the death of political activist Charlie Kirk. The 57-year-old was back fronting his talk show overnight after being suspended last week. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with the news in full at 6.
Guramayed, thank you, Amy, there for the headlines. A quick look to the weather now, brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Staying dry for the rest of the evening and overnight with light to moderate southeasterly winds and a minimum temperature of around 10 degrees tonight. Dry again tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, light to moderate southeast winds and a top temperature up to 17 degrees. Dry on Friday with sunny spells, moderate to fresh southeast winds and temperatures up to 16 degrees. It will then turn cloudier later in the day with a band of rain expected overnight, this largely clearing by mid-afternoon on Saturday. Sunset tonight is at 13 minutes past 7 and sunrise tomorrow morning is at 7:08.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.in.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
If you have children, pets or a house, talk to Peace of Mind about a will or power of attorney, which will help family members when it matters. Prices from $199 plus VAT. Find us on Facebook or call 632 610.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
That's right, and the time now is 5:05. The Isle of Man Government Conference has drawn to a close, but the conversations about the announcements made there throughout have only just begun. Christian Jones is down at the Comis Hotel where it's all been taking place. Faster my Christian, lots of topics covered today. Can you give us a little rundown of the main talking points?
Faster my Lewis, yeah, indeed. Well, like you say, it's been a big day, lots of talking points to say the least. This morning we heard about housing, obviously a hot topic which isn't new to anyone. David Ashford talking about what is being done to tackle the issues we see cropping up frequently, of course. Talking about affordability and availability. Headline figures include 1,300 approvals for planning permission. I spoke with the Cabinet Office Minister who said that in the life of this administration there's been about 300-ish dwellings built, but he's very aware that there is more to do. One of the things I asked was whether he has concerns that we're about to approach an election year. Could there be growing scepticism from politicians who might be reluctant to support anything which could be seen as controversial? Elsewhere, later in the day, of course, things like the economy. What are the main focuses of the Department for Enterprise? A headline announcement, for example, the Food and Drink Festival will be returning in 2026. I'm told likely at Nobles Park, and immigration securing the island's borders. What can be done to bolster the safeguards and protect against trafficking, against drugs, against criminal networks? What's being done to roll out facial recognition, ID requirements, travelling on the steam packet, and of course one of the underlying themes throughout is the idea of efficiency. And on the surface that appears to be something which is at the core of government operations. Mark Lewin, the Chief Executive Officer of the Isle of Man government, gave his first presentation as the man at the top of the civil service. He said that the Cabinet Office recently ran a trial where they rolled out some AI, and on average workers were saving between 30 and 60 minutes each. But of course, what I've just told you here is only a small flavour of what's happened. Some very detailed presentations, some interesting figures, and it is fair to say that there is no shortage of ambition. The Chief Minister is very clear that it's still full throttle, no time to waste, but perhaps the challenge the government administration may have is delivering on all of these ideas, getting them to a place where the next administration can get hands-on, pick up the reins and continue to build on what's been set out so far.
Christian Jones there, live from the Comis Hotel. He's been at the government conference today. We'll be hearing more about some of those topics and issues mentioned there, and hearing more from Christian throughout the programme as well. The time now 5:08, a successive failure to grasp the nettle. Those are the words of the Treasury Minister, admitting not enough has been done by this and previous administrations to tackle the shortage of housing on the island. Housing has been one of the big topics at this week's government conference, as we've heard, including an announcement about plans to increase support for first-time buyers. Manx Radio's political correspondent Phil Gaughan asked Alex Allinson whether the challenge of getting on the housing ladder is putting Manx residents off starting a family.
That's always been an issue. It's never been easy to start a family, but it's got harder. And part of that is the increase in house prices on the Isle of Man, and that we haven't been building enough houses to meet the needs of future generations. What we've had announced today at the government conference by the Chief Minister is a complete review of first-time buyers, looking at the income thresholds, looking at the ability for people to get government support to get on the housing ladder if they want to buy. But also we must look at the private rental sector as well, for those families who don't qualify for social housing, to make sure that they can get a roof over their heads and security of tenure as well, so that they can plan ahead. Because it is difficult, it always has been, but what we need to do is give people that helping hand to allow them to make the right choices for themselves and their families.
Has government failed, would you say, in relation to solving the housing crisis?
I think we've had a successive failure to grasp the nettle that we need to build more houses. We need to reform the planning controls going back decades to provide the right amount of houses for the people who are staying on the island. The way of dealing with that, though, is by working with local communities. So we will prefer to do brownfield site development first rather than greenfield site. And you, in your previous jobs, have probably gone through all sorts of issues with planning that everyone says they want more houses, but they don't necessarily want to have to look at them. We need to break that and have a more sustainable way of providing housing on the island, which is why this administration had the OHAN, the Objective Assessment of Housing Need. So we've now got the ability to actually bring that into things like the strategic plan that's under consultation at the moment, to make sure we get the right sort of housing in the right areas to benefit all people, whether that's young people starting families or older people who want to downsize in terms of their retirement.
Phil Gaughan speaking to Treasury Minister Alex Allinson.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And it's 11 minutes past 5. The Isle of Man Food and Drink Festival's return was announced earlier today. The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture cancelled the event last year, saying it was moving to an alternative model. While speaking at the government conference, the Minister for Enterprise announced the festival will take place in 2026 with a new home at Nobles Park. Christian has been speaking with the Minister, Tim Johnston.
It needs to be reimagined, and I think the important thing is that we get that engagement with local food producers, and because I know there's always a lot of questions about it and a lot of concern. There's a lot of concern when it stopped. So I'm really pleased that as the department taking on more of the food marketing side now, that we're bringing it back, because we recognise how important an event it is.
And how do you think it will benefit the agriculture sector, the food production sector, the hospitality sector, even in the short and long term?
Well, I think it's important to make sure we've always got somewhere on the island where we're showcasing what we have and the talent we have and the quality and I think the broad width of produce that we have on the island. So any opportunity for the food and drink sector to be able to engage with the public, to talk about that, to show their wares, I think that's always an important thing we should be doing.
And would you agree that government was wrong to suspend it initially?
Well, I think that that was a decision made at the time by DEFA, who were running the event. I think clearly that there were people who were disappointed with that, but I think at the same time there was also a move to look at to do things a bit differently and do different sort of events. But I think ultimately people were concerned and disappointed at the loss of the event. So we are pleased to bring it back.
Do you think that affects any confidence that food producers might have in government? Because you obviously played a pretty key role in the agriculture sector before you were involved in politics. If you had been still in the agriculture sector when that decision was made, would you have been sat thinking, what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I understand there was concern. I know there's anger at the time from some. There's a lot of commitment goes into it, a lot of time. We're talking often about very small businesses. People are busy. These are big events for them to sort out. So I think what I'm pleased about now is to be able to give that notice now, and which gives people a lot of time and hopefully gives them confidence that it's going to be going ahead.
Tim Johnston with Christian there, who also told Manx Radio that the festival will take place following the Manx Grand Prix and Classic TT, making use of the existing infrastructure. 13 minutes past 5 now, and this week is Dementia Awareness Week. It's a condition that will affect 1 in 3 of us in our lifetime, but how much do you know about it? The theme this year is myth-busting and hoping to tackle some common misconceptions. Claire Cubberley is the local service manager of the Manx branch of the Alzheimer's Society.
Life doesn't end with dementia begins, and people can live a good quality of life with an earlier diagnosis. And obviously some of the things, the mobility and seeing things, whilst you can't take those away, we can help them understand what's happening, which helps them come out and takes away some of the fears when understanding's there. Each person's experience with dementia is different, so each person is a unique person with dementia, and I think that's really important, and that's something in all of our assessments, that we will look at the person, their life history, who they are, what their life has contained, because that will also have an impact on their dementia and how they are presenting with their dementia as well. People living with dementia experience unfair and negative assumptions about their abilities, so we can often de-skill them by doing things for them, because we see them struggling, we see them finding things difficult, and we step in and do it for them, where all they need is a little bit more time, a little bit more patience, and understanding that ways of guiding them rather than taking the task from them.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Let's take a look at the roads now, and nothing to report from police, I'm happy to say. The Mountain Road is closed from Brandywell to the Cregner Bar for drainage work. This stretch of the road will remain closed until Monday the 20th of October. Businesses on the mountain will be open as normal. In Douglas until the 24th, that's today, temporary lights on Lake Road 24 hours a day for patching works. In Braddon until the 27th of February, temporary lights on Braddon Road just up from the Braddon Bridge for work on the entrance to a new residential development there. And in the north of the island until the 10th of October, there's going to be rolling closures on the Cronk Road, Coast Road, Bride Road and for road stud installation. The closures will be in place each day, weekday between 9:30 and 4:30, so should be clear now. Meanwhile, if you're travelling on or off island tonight, all on schedule over at the airport, all flights set to fly in and out on time this evening. On the sailings, we should see Manxmen arriving into Douglas Harbour in the next few moments. Back from Heysham, I can see a trail out there. I think she's just pulling in. And Manannan, meanwhile, is on her way to Liverpool and due to arrive there in around 15 minutes' time.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside. You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Plans to expand funding for apprenticeships to larger employers have been unveiled at the government conference. It's hoped the move will boost the number of earn while you learn opportunities here, as Amy Griffiths reports.
Support for businesses to be able to offer apprenticeships has been under fire in recent weeks, particularly from the construction industry. Some teenagers told us they've been refused by up to 40 different businesses amid a shortage of options. An emergency conference was held last month to allow professionals and aspiring apprentices to discuss the challenges facing the sector, including the cost of training up apprentices. One employer told me it cost him £50,000 a year to employ 3 trainees. In April last year, government standardised support across trades and provided a 50% increase in incentives for businesses with fewer than 10 employees. The Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon, says while more employers are offering the scheme than ever before, he recognises some larger employers have pulled back. In an attempt to change that, he's announced the removal of the cap, meaning any qualifying business will be able to get financial support going forward. Eligible employers will receive up to £60 per week during the period of training, with support backdated to April 2025. The Education Minister, Daphne Kane, says apprenticeships are a vital way to build a skilled workforce, which is why her department fully funds their training and assessment for the duration of their course. Government says it's committed to ensuring young people have the skills and opportunities they need to succeed in work and lifelong learning.
Amy Griffiths there with that report. The time now coming up to 18 minutes past 5. With just over a year to go until the next general election, what kind of campaign might we be heading into? Veteran political commentator Alistair Ramsey has been watching Manx politics for more than 40 years. He's been a journalist, a government press officer, and now a regular observer of Tynwald. Christian Jones sat down with him to get his take on Alfred Cannon's legacy and what could shape the vote in 2026.
The most interesting question about the election next year is whether we will actually see a genuine anti-government reaction against the sitting members. And people always talk about that and they always say it's the worst ever government, and it never quite works out like that. But my sense is that there is a kind of disillusionment with the government this time that may translate into a reaction against the sitting members. So the task for the sitting members is to distance themselves from the government and pretend that they've been anti-government all along, which will include a number of former ministers who were very clearly part of the government for quite a long time.
And does that make life very difficult for any chief minister?
Yes, it does make it difficult. I don't say that all the ministers will do that. I think some of them will stick to their guns and they deserve credit for that. It's entirely possible that the chief minister himself could distance himself from his own government's policies. That can happen, and hope that people have short memories.
Alistair Ramsey there speaking to Christian Jones, and you can find more of that interview over at manxradio.com. Now, there's a good chance you or someone you know on the island has been affected by addiction and dependency, be it through alcohol, drugs, gambling or anything else. Well, this Sunday, Manx charity Motivate is hosting a symbolic Road to Recovery walk along the Douglas to Peel Heritage Trail, starting at the NSC at 10 o'clock in the morning. The organisation says whether you're in recovery yourself, supporting a loved one, or simply want to show solidarity, it's a chance to walk alongside others who understand your struggles and triumphs. I've been speaking to Motivate's fundraiser Nicola Brown and peer mentor Jimmy Thistle.
For Motivate, we're all about recovery, be that recovery for yourselves, someone that you love, and the walk itself takes that heritage trail in. It's a nice route along, and it's about recovery, it's about community. You don't have to be in recovery to come along and join us on the day.
So when did the idea for this come about?
Well, actually, Jimmy, who's with me today, uttered the words about doing a walk some 16, 18 months ago, and it's only in the last couple of months where this has taken off and we've really sort of been able to move it forward.
So Jimmy, why did you want Motivate to do a walk in particular?
I mean, I'm a very avid walker, hiker. I think it's just for myself, when I started getting into recovery, started getting sober, it was one of the greatest things that I did was to just get out and clear my mind and go for a walk and just kind of, lose any kind of worries or anything you've got, leave them at home and just go for a walk. And it was therapeutic for me. So I really thought that we wanted to kind of bring that forward for Motivate. With it being the community aspect and people coming out for a walk as well, it's just a great way of bringing people together, being able to just chat along the way, find out about what other people are going through if they want to talk about that, but just all, and also it keeps you fit as well. It's just a great way of bringing everyone together, I think. And we just want as many people to kind of come along as possible. It doesn't have to be someone that's in recovery or anyone that's to do with alcohol or drugs like that. It's just we want to kind of raise the awareness around that, and I think a lot of people know someone or anyone that's affected by it. So, if you are, then come along and speak to myself and the other members of, Motivate, and just anyone that's with us as well along the walk. So it's just going to open conversations up.
Jimmy Thistle there from Motivate alongside Nicola Brown. Onken Commissioners will be removing its recycling bring bank at Port Jack tomorrow. The local authority agreed to the decision at its public meeting, saying it was in its best interest for health and safety of the staff. Chair Anthony Allen told Emma Draper there are a number of other bring banks residents can use.
Loading and unloading in this area does pose some challenges. We don't have a drop curb, and also it's on a blind bend. And we've done a risk assessment of this area, and we feel that we should take some positive action to cease using that area as a brink bank. We do have a site that is very, very close to this one, which is in the park itself, which has got the capacity to take all of the recycling from this area as well as what gets recycled in the park itself. It's our intention as of this week that we're in now, as of Thursday, to make that change a permanent one. So we will be putting out information both physically with a sign at the location and also through social media and everything else that we can use to tell people, please continue to recycle and take your recycling to the park at Onken.
How many other bring banks are there in the village, and what are the other ones people can use?
I think there's 4 others just off the top of my head. You've got the one at the park, you've got one that is at the top of Birch Hill, you've got one behind the Commissioner's offices, and there's one at Ballakrink.
The Oxford English Dictionary has added Manx words to its dictionary as part of its September update. Siobhan Fletcher joins me now to take a look at what's made the cut. Siobhan, why have these words been included?
Yeah, Lewis. So in September last year, the Oxford English Dictionary published the first of a new series of quarterly updates for World Englishes. They included new and revised entries for words from the likes of the Caribbean, East Africa, New Zealand and Wales. Since then, it's released 3 further updates, all featuring a colourful assortment of distinctive words and phrases that are used by English speakers across the globe. In this latest update, the OED says it's gone back to where the journey started, but this time they're joined by recent inclusions from the Isle of Man. It says the important words, as Manx Gaelic is officially recognised and is undergoing revitalisation here, and that the words selected are examples of loan words. That basically means they are Manx Gaelic words that we'd use while speaking Manx English.
Okay, so what words have been included then?
Okay, so I'm going to rope in one of our resident Manx speakers here. Here's a bit of Christy de Haven speaking to Sean Cowper in this morning's Manx Radio breakfast programme.
Probably the one we might know best is coosh, which they've defined as a friendly conversation or chat. The OED entry cites some lines from a Manx poem, and they've got a few other bits in there as well. You're better at the Manx pronunciation than me.
I'm delighted to say they've got a cushion. That's wonderful. They've also put in Thai veg, which is the
useful,
the
always
toilet.
handy to know, isn't it?
Yeah, the little place. I love that, the little house. And also, I think it's Cholloch, I think you pronounce it as. I'm not entirely sure, but this is a tall, wide fireplace with an open hearth.
And for more details on that Manx update, tune in to our breakfast programme tomorrow morning when we'll be hearing from the World English editor at the OED, Danica Salazar.
Siobhan Fletcher, Gurmayed. That means thank you.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And it's 5:25 and an appropriate time to say Faster Mai to Manx Radio's sports editor Rob Pritchard, who has the latest news from the world of sport. Faster Mai, Rob.
Faster Mai, Lewis. Well, to start with, Rick Holden has been appointed as caretaker first-team manager of FC Isle of Man. The former Manchester City and Oldham Athletic player will take charge of his first match on Saturday the 4th of October when the Manx side host Barnoldswick Town in the NWCFL Premier Division. Announcing the appointment, FC Isle of Man says Mr Holden will bring a wealth of football knowledge to the role and has built a strong coaching reputation through his work with local clubs and the Isle of Man FA men's representative side. He replaces Paul Jones, who stepped down as the club's first-team manager earlier this week. At the time of Mr Jones' departure, FC Isle of Man sit 22nd in the NWCFL Premier Division with 2 wins from their opening 13 games. Elsewhere, Isle of Man tennis player Billy Harris has taken victory in the opening round of this year's Jingshan Open in China. In the opening phase of the men's singles tournament, Harris beat qualifier Petr Barbiryukov in straight sets, 7-6, 7-6 in the early hours of this morning. And as a result, the former Albany and Castletown player will now face Canadian 8th seed Liam Draxel in the second round tomorrow. Well, so far this month, Harris, who currently sits 131st in the ATP World Rankings, claimed his first ATP Challenger title by winning the Cassis Open Provence in France, and he also reached the semi-final stage of the Guangzhou Huangpu International Tennis Open in China. And finally, Manx trial sensation Caitlin Adshead and Great Britain have finished third in this year's trial donation. The Isle of Man competitor, along with teammates Alice Minter and Alicia Robinson, amassed 62 points during the 2025 event in Tolmezzo in Italy. The British squad had gone into this year's meeting as back-to-back champions, having taken top honours in both 2023 and 2024. Well, in a nail-biting finish, Spain edged out Italy on a tie-break to be crowned winners after both had initially finished the courses on 54 points. Well, for Adshead, it's been an impressive personal campaign so far, with the Manx rider having recently been crowned a European champion, taking first place in this year's Trial ECW class of the Trials European Championship early this month. Elsewhere in September, the 2024 Isle of Man Under-21 Sportswoman of the Year also went on to finish fourth in the FIM Women's Trial World Championship.
Rob Pritchard, Gurmayed, thank you. That's it for Update Tonight. Andy on the text says, regarding government conference, how many times was the costs and timescales of implementation mentioned? We'll find that out for you, Andy. But that's it for tonight. Howard Kane is here with Spotlight next. And at 6 o'clock, Chris Kinley will be along with Greatest Hits. Remember, you can listen back to tonight's programme as a podcast. If there's anything you've missed, it will be available shortly over at manxradio.com. Have a great evening. An Update will be back at the same time tomorrow.